Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Alley Oop Show. I'm Andrew Gaze, and joining me every single week is the great, the legendary Leonard Copeland. Copes, how are things been travelling with you? What a day we've had today in the NBA. I got up this morning looking forward to kicking back and watching some hoops, and the NBA players decided that it was not appropriate for them to be participating in light of what's been going on in the United States.
The big boys said enough is enough. I mean, LeBron, the Greek Freak, those are big names in the NBA, and they've decided that they don't want to entertain people when people are suffering out in the real world. So they got together and said, "Look, Adam Silver, we want to boycott the next couple of games coming up. What do you think about it?" And Adam was, he was in for it.
Well, Coach, we need to break that down a little bit more, but before we do that, we need to make mention right from the top of the show, we have got a superstar. Our little podcast is attracting interest all over the world, but not just from the sporting people, from entertainers, and we've got one of the greats, Nazeem Hussain. He's going to join us a little bit later on in the program, and when it comes to making people laugh, there's none better in this great country than Nazeem. Very, very funny man. And we're going to show a little bit of our interview that we did yesterday. And if you want to check out the full entire interview, which we strongly recommend you do, you can check out the link below in the YouTube details, and you can jump straight on and have a listen to our conversation. It was a great conversation. He's a very funny man.
He's a funny man. He's a worldly man too. He's been around the world. He's met with superstars. He knows what's going on, man. He's funny. He had me laughing the whole time.
He does, and we also need to talk about Brett Brown, the Philadelphia 76ers, the continuation of the playoffs, and, of course, we touch on just a little bit of the off-season action in the NBL. But first, let's get back to what we opened the show with the news today when we woke up that the players have got together, led by, I think, the Milwaukee Bucks, on the basis of what we saw with Jacob Blake, a man that was shot 7 times by police officers, and
7 times in the back, Joey. 7 times in the back.
6 or 7 times in the back. But this, of course, is on the back of George Floyd and other, no other way to describe it, atrocities that we have seen with police brutality in the United States. And the NBA players using their platform, led by the Milwaukee Bucks, because the Jacob Blake situation took place in Wisconsin.
Yes. And
they led the way, and not only have NBA players followed, but also we've seen a few baseball games have been postponed, and we don't know where this
women's basketball.
We don't know where it's going to end, but it brings back to that conversation that we had quite a number of weeks ago, and we need to ask the question: is this appropriate? Are their actions appropriate when they decide to close down the competition?
Joey, these guys have a massive platform right now. They're rich superstars. There are millions of people around the world watching them play. Now, like you said, you woke up this morning and you're in shock. No basketball, why? So now people want to know why there's no basketball. And these guys have a legitimate reason to say, we don't feel like entertaining you guys anymore until you fix the problem. There's a problem in the United States with racial equality. Until you guys fix it, we're not playing.
Well, Copes, a man who reacted very strongly and a man who spoke so magnificently was Doc Rivers. And this is what he had to say after his game yesterday.
What stands out to me is just watching the Republican convention, and they're spewing this fear, right? Like, all you hear is Donald Trump and all of them talking about fear. We're the ones getting killed. We're the ones getting shot. We're the ones that we're denied to live in certain communities. We've been hung. We've been shot. And all you do is keep hearing about fear. It's amazing to me why we keep loving this country and this country does not love us back. And it's really so sad. Like, I should just be a coach. And it's so often reminded of my color. You know, it's just really sad. We got to do better. But we got to demand better. Like, we got, you know, it's funny. We protest and they send riot guards, right? They send people in riot outfits. They go to Michigan with guns and they're spitting on cops and nothing happens. The training has to change in the police force. The unions have to be taken down in the police force. My dad was a cop. I believe in good cops. We're not trying to defund the police and take all their money away. We're trying to get them to protect us, just like they protect everybody else. I didn't want to talk about it before the game because it's so hard, like, to just keep watching it. That video, if you watch that video, you don't need to be black to be outraged.
Now, Coach, heartfelt, emotional speech, and when he's got first-hand experience, his dad was a police officer. Yep. He understands the system quite, I would say, better than most. And for him, the way in which he expressed it, I think that he...
Tears in his eyes, Joey. Tears in his eyes.
And why wouldn't you? How could you not be shocked? And the thing that disappoints me is that when you go on and you read some of the social media comments about the players taking this stand, yep, and you see how others in particularly the American community are defending the actions of the police, yep, I think it just says so much about how far the United States has got to go, and I'm sure other countries as well. And here in Australia, we are not perfect. We've got a long way to go as well. But when you see and listen to some of the comments that people make to justify it, you can speak more firsthand on it. But
just go back to when Colin Kaepernick kneeled, peaceful protest in the football, NFL, and he was crucified and he lost his job, blackballed, because all he wanted to do was say, look, you guys got to stop treating people the way you're treating them. Now, all he did was kneel, and they destroyed him. They took him, they destroyed him, destroyed his career, destroyed the man personally. Had we listened to him back in the day, perhaps things would have been better.
Well, we can, I think, take a lot of heart in the fact that NBA players are not going to tolerate it anymore. And it's also a remarkable coincidence because, as I understand it, the day of the boycott is the anniversary of Colin Kaepernick taking that knee, as you mentioned. So it's the fickle hand of fate works in mysterious ways, and it's a powerful message that's being sent by NBA players. Clearly, many are not going to be on board and saying, hey, that's not your platform. You just go ahead and play. I say well done for the NBA for showing incredible leadership, and perhaps the leadership that we need from the people in power in the United States needs to look at what's going on with the NBA guys and perhaps take a leaf out of their book on how you can take action to say enough is enough. But
well done to Adam Silver, too, because he's a great commissioner. Not a lot of commissioners around the world would have gone this far, but he's giving these guys a platform to speak on what's in their heart.
Well, they have huge problems, and we wait and we'll watch. And
we wait and we vote. We wait and we vote, bro.
That's what you need to do. And I don't know, you're a dual citizen, aren't you, Coach?
I'm a dual citizen, and my vote will be on the way, homeboy. Believe that.
Well, that's good.
Who I'm vote for, but I'm going to vote.
And that's the one thing that they've done with all the little speeches that they've made. Almost every single one of them have ended their conversations with, hey, get out there, register to vote, and most importantly, show up and vote. Because unlike here in Australia, it's not compulsory to actually go and cast your vote. Hey, Coach, one of the other things that's kind of intertwined with this is Luka Doncic is putting on a show. Game-winning three that he knocked down.
Doubles all over the place
against the Clippers. just an incredible single-handed performance that he's had, triple doubles everywhere. But he was involved in a bit of trash talking. Montrezl Harrell came out and apparently used language that in the current environment we're in, or in fact, any environment, I suppose, you say is no longer appropriate.
That's exactly right, George.
And it was clearly to do with his race. Said, hey, white boy, I think white boy was the language that used. And he went out of his way to apologize to Luka Doncic.
You had to. If you want it this way, you can't have it that way. The bottom line is, if you don't want him calling you black boy, you can't call him white boy. And
correct.
I'm with that 100%. So he was wrong. He had to apologize. And you know what? Some of the bigger guys, I think Barkley and Kenny Smith and Shaq, even apparently Shaq called him and said, dude, what are you doing? You can't do that. He got on it, and he got on a good foot and made the apology straight away.
Discussion that Karl and Luka Doncic had before the game. And as you can see, Doncic, no big deal at all.
I think it's fantastic. I think it's
that was before the game too. They hugged it out, and they moved on.
Luka Doncic, I don't think, and other people, and I've had that said to me. I can't tell you how many times.
Yeah.
And not for a second did I see it as some sort of racial slur. But I am the one coming from privilege. I am the one that's in the majority. So I think that they are separate, and but to be consistent and perhaps that next step forward, it's a great thing that he did do it. But Luka, what would you think the Atlanta Hawks would be doing now?
I'm from Atlanta. They'd be feeling like shit. Let me tell you something. Whoever, listen to me.
They made the trade.
I don't care.
Coach, before you get to this,
are you kidding?
No, just before you get to this, we're all geniuses in hindsight.
I don't care.
No, but hang on, Coach, because I want you to hear something. Here is a little grab I saw on social media of some of the more outspoken commentary before Luka Doncic was drafted. Have a listen to this.
Tell me about
His
Luka
feet
Doncic.
is slower than rush hour traffic.
That's my takeaway. He doesn't pop athletically.
The athleticism, that's the problem. The lack of athleticism.
Yeah, it doesn't have it.
Doncic at 6'7" will get exposed for all of the inadequacies that Dirk.
He struggled with quick defenders.
Dirk's not a great athlete.
No.
Dirk doesn't have explosive quickness, right?
No.
Dirk isn't physical.
No.
Well, that's what's going to happen to Doncic.
We tend to over-sensationalize European basketball.
He's European, or he's going to be the Dirk. Skip, that's an anomaly.
It sounds like you're saying Luka will not be like a perennial all-star type player.
I don't see that.
I am not saying Luka is setting the NBA world on fire. I'm not sure he's going to be a dominating NBA player.
I don't believe he's a lottery pick.
Not a lottery pick.
No, I don't.
Wow.
DeAndre Ayton is going to be the #1 overall pick, but it's incredibly important that the Phoenix Suns don't mess this up. I don't give a damn about how this kid in Europe looks.
I'm not loving what I'm hearing about Luka then.
This kid's he's better than Ricky Rubio, but he doesn't look special to me.
I don't see Steve Nash, and I definitely don't see Larry Bird.
Now, Coach, like I said, it's a bit cruel to do that because we make comment about people, and yes, you can be wrong. But when you look at the Atlanta Hawks and the trade that they made in order to get Luka Doncic, is that one, they still got a great player.
Trae Young is a great player, yes.
They still got a Trae Young, but where we are right now,
who would you want right now?
If you're redrafting,
that's right.
Who would you still do the same?
Really, right now you're taking Luka all day, every day. Now here's my problem with it.
Yes.
Luka was a superstar when he was 9 years old. If you watch some of his own tapes, he was a star in Europe when he was 9, 10, 12, 14, 16. How do you pass on a guy like this? And especially the Atlanta Hawks, my home team, who haven't been to the playoffs in 250 years. Come on, man. Come on. So, as much as I love Trae Young, Trae Young's not going to take you to the promised land, but Luka will.
Well, I think you've answered the next question to say, is this a man still going through a honeymoon period, and is he going to be able to maintain this level for the long term?
He's 21, right? Is he 21?
That's right.
If you can get a triple-double at 21, you can get one at 25. Trust me, bro. Trust me.
And the take, as we heard from some of those comments when he was getting drafted, is about his athleticism, and some have questioned his three-point shot. And the stats say he's got some area to improve in that in the 3-point.
What does he need to improve on? What?
The percentages. So he's got to become a higher percentage 3-point shooter.
Why is that? Ben Simmons doesn't have to become a higher three.
I think to continue and improve. So for him to, as defenses start to adjust, they see this superstar. He's got to deal with all the different things that teams are going to throw at him. Clearly, that's an area where he can still improve. But he's a rebounding fool, great guy to play with because he distributes it, can get to the rim, uses his size, clearly very smart basketball.
Hardest player on the floor. And let me tell you something. Right now, I'm taking Luka all day long. When you destroy my LA Clippers like you have,
yes,
LA Clippers are meant to be a defensive team.
Yes.
When you destroy my LA Clippers like you have, you're the best player in the league. It is what it is.
Well, they trailed that series 3-2. Copes. The other big news outside of this sensational form of Luka Doncic is one of our own. Well, we consider him one of our own because he's a close personal friend and he's also a friend of the Australian basketball community and is the current head coach of the Boomers and has guided Australia during the London Olympic Games. So he's won an NBL title coaching the North Melbourne Giants, and that's Brett Brown. He's been with the Philadelphia 76ers for 7 years, and after their 4-0 exit from the playoffs, the Philadelphia management have decided that his services are no longer required.
He's done a fantastic job early, Joey. He came in early, and I think they were under 20 wins or something for the season or something. They were
his first 3 years were horrific, just horrific.
Now, he's built that team up to where they are today, but sometimes you need a stronger voice to get him to the next level. Now, not saying he can't coach. Brett Brown, we know can coach. We know he's a good guy. We know he can coach. The problem being when you have superstars like Ben Simmons and Embiid, and those guys are on so much money, it's hard to sit there and yell and scream at them. Some coaches can't do it. I know for a fact something, you know what I mean? So,
well, even if you can't yell and scream at them, it's sometimes convincing them of the team ethos and the team system can be difficult because those guys in the middle tier, as much money as they're making, they're trying to get the money of the big tier and they think it's all about themselves. And to your point, Josh Richardson, he had a few things to say, and this is what he said about Brett Brown and his coaching.
He's a good guy. He's a good man. He means well. I just think going forward, we've got to have some more accountability. I don't think there was much accountability this season, and I think that was part of our problem.
Now, Coach, those words ring in my ears because basically saying really good guy, great personality, real friendly, but wasn't able to hold his team accountable. He needed to be more accountable. Now, I don't know what specifically that means, but my guess is that perhaps when some of the bigger name players,
Embiid or Simmons screws up, you got to let them know in their face.
Whoever it may be, some of those big Horford, the big name guys, maybe for some they're saying that he wasn't prepared to have that hard conversation. Now, I know Brett Brown, and I think that is hard to believe. He has no problem looking you in the eye and saying this is not good enough. Now, you don't have to carry on and rant and rave and bust a puffer valve in order to get that message across.
We're not asking you to do that, but when it needs to be done, it needs to be done. A la Pop at San Antonio, the one we talked about last week.
That's a different personality.
Of course it is. But sometimes Pop can be, and you know Pop better than anybody. Pop can be the nicest guy in the world too. But when he needs to kick butt, he kicks butt, and those guys respect him, and they go out and work hard for him. Is that fair to say?
Or they do, but it is one that can lead to confrontation.
So that's right.
And when you got 5 NBA titles under your belt, it's a lot easier to have that conversation than it is when you're out there and you're
like
coming
that.
off.
Pop's sort of been like that his whole career, though.
Oh, he has, and I spoke about it. He was like that from a young. But you are taking a risk. But if that is not in your DNA, if that's not the way you communicate, and you've got to, I don't think you should have to act in order to be that way.
Because some guys' egos are through the roof. They're making $200 million or $300 million, and they don't want to hear it from a coach who's only making $1 million because I don't like what you got to say. So it is. Those guys have massive egos, Drew.
But that's my point. If they've got that massive ego, if you can do it in a calm and rational way, and they're of the belief that you're there to try and help, I think that's. I don't believe Steve Kerr, and what I know of Steve Kerr, he's not trying to be Greg Popovich and scream and be overly demonstrative in the way he's going to behave. Sure, he might do that with the officials, but even when you see that period where he's going through some tough times with Draymond Green, he wasn't ruling with an iron fist. Maybe I'm only judging from what we see from the outside. I guess those more closer to it. But I don't know anyone that's come about and said that Steve Kerr was a ranter and raver. Now, I guess if you're Steve Kerr and you've gone through when you're winning all the time,
and you got
that to me is the big thing.
That's right.
All these things about personality types, holding people accountable, all these things are directly related to winning and losing and whether or not the individuals are performing. If the individuals are performing and you're winning, a variety of different coaching styles have had success.
Is it fair to say sometimes you need to kick their butts to get them to the level that they need to be at so you can win?
Of course, but kicking that, and I guess, well, what does kicking butt mean?
That means when someone misses a box out or someone's not running back, you say, get your ass back or you're going to sit down. Because if you let it continue the whole game, then they think it's okay.
Yes.
Because they're making so much money, he's not going to bother me. I don't have to play defense, or I'm going to flop on the floor and not get up and get back and help the team. Do you understand?
I understand, but I think, to me, Brett Brown and where this team is heading and the control the coach has in putting the team together, I'm not sure they really end up where they should have. I think when you look at their team and the lack of perimeter shooting, and certainly at the start of the season, you look at their full roster, and I thought they would do better. But when you see it unfolding throughout the course of the regular season, I think they got about where they needed to get, particularly when you don't have Ben Simmons.
I got a question for you, though.
So on that basis, Coach, to me, and I'm biased, I put my hand up because Brett's a good friend of mine. To me, Brett's a bit of a scapegoat here. The narrative from the punters out there, we're losing, the coach is an easy target.
I got two questions for you now. Do you continue, if you get swept in the playoffs, do you continue to roll with the same coach? Most of the time you don't, and that's in any sport. Secondly, would Brett Brown have helped to make a decision on J.J. Redick or someone like that?
I'm sure he would have loved to have kept J.J. Redick. So but when it comes down to balancing the books, in order to get Tobias Harris, in order to get Horford, in order to bring this other talent in, you've got to make sacrifices.
So are you saying Brett Brown went into a meeting with the general manager and said, look, knowing that they need a shooter, saying and saying, I want Redick, and they said, no, you can't have Redick. Are you saying that happened? Or
my guess would have been like, well, we need JJ. And they say, well, hang on, if we're going to get Tobias Harris, if we're going to get Horford, if we're going to get these two players, the sums don't add up. The sums don't add up. So he'd be saying, well, you make the sums add up. I want JJ Redick. And then eventually someone's got to make a decision because the coach is saying, well, I want this player. He's proven. He knocks down the shot. He's perfect for us. But if the sums don't add up, that's when the general manager is then forced to make those decisions. Now, I don't know if that was the conversation, but I would suspect that would go on a regular basis to say, well, yeah, we want these guys. And this guy, JJ Redick, probably would have stayed. But hang on, you're gonna make an offer to me that's $5 or $6 million a year less. Well, then of course you're not going to keep them.
Yep, absolutely.
Now that's not Brett's fault, unless of course you say, well, we don't want Tobias Harris or we don't want Horford, and we continue on with the same of what we got. They had to make changes to try and get over the hump.
That's right. They had to make changes. So that's what I'm saying about him. I love Brett as well, but if you get swept in the playoffs, regardless of what happens, they got to blame somebody. Yep. So who else are they going to blame? They got to blame somebody. We've been through it. We know. What are you saying? We've been through this.
And I don't think a lot of people understand, though, that the coach doesn't necessarily always have the say on putting the team together.
Right.
They would be consulted, they would be asked, but they don't always have the ultimate decision.
Yep.
And that's not just in the NBA, that's around the world, and probably as it should be, because if you're a coach and you've got a 1-year contract, you might go and make recruiting decisions that are not necessarily good for the longer term. So I can understand why you've got to have that balance between.
And that though, some coaches do have to have the players.
Some of them do. Some of them do. Yeah. And most of the time, those coaches that have that power aren't concerned about their own individual long-term future.
Brian Gorgon.
Yes. He has got no problems about his long-term future. So, and they're going to listen to him. Yep. But if you're a coach and you've got 1 year left and you say, well, I need to win now, you'll go out and make some decisions just for this next year, and you don't keep the bigger picture in that decision-making, that can also be unproductive for an organisation as well. One of the things that you mentioned in the comments that you were making is about flops.
Yep.
Now, Copes, flopping is a huge conversation here in Australia right now with the AFL, but it's sparked a lot of conversation. And I don't know whether it's just something in the air now globally, but in the NBA and during this period of
in the bubble,
of the bubble, we have seen some flops, and this is the one that sent me over the edge to say, hang on a second, we can't let this move on. Daniel House Jr., is that his name, Copes?
Daniel House Jr., yep.
From the Houston Rockets. Have a look at this. Now, Copes, that is as blatant as you get, but it wasn't the only one. Have a look at Kelly Olynyk from Miami Heat. Have a look at this. And then even those that with recent championship rings, Kyle Lowry, throwing it back and really exaggerating. And it can go on and on.
Joey, why do you think it's so blatant now?
Well, that's what firstly, I want to ask you, is this something because of the bubble that I've just noticed it more? Or is this something that is more of a recent trend that's becoming more prevalent?
I don't know. I think it's because it could be because there's no fans in the bubble, and it's hard to say. I mean, we're sitting here making a big deal out of it, but like you said, it happens in the AFL. It happens all over the world. The soccer do it a lot.
Well, they're the kings. They are the gold medalists when it comes to flopping. It is embarrassing what goes on.
Didn't the NBA put something in place where
they can fine you?
Yeah,
but they're very reluctant. There has been a few fines handed out. I don't know if these three in particular warranted fines, but it makes it really hard on the officials. For some reason here in Australia, whether it's a cultural thing, they're bad, and as you mentioned, but at least in the AFL ones we've seen recently, there was some level of contact. These ones here, Cubs, they're taking it to a new level.
You can get caught up in if that's something you want to do, you can really get caught up in doing this kind of thing. And it's bad for the sport, though. You know what I mean? You're gonna take a charge, be a man about it, and take a real charge. You know what I mean?
Well, not just charge. It's about trying to throw your arms out to.
You're trying to sell the foul. You're basically trying to sell the foul to the referee.
Do you have any problems with it?
I have a massive problem with it. Of course, that's what I'm saying. If you're going to be a man, do the right thing. Don't sit there and pretend.
Hey, Coach, I'm prepared to put my hand up and say,
"Oh, you did it! Oh, you did it, pal! You
and I reckon we have all done it to different degrees."
Now I might have said I got fouled and probably didn't, but
even with me, I think a lot of the times you're exaggerating contact rather than just making it up. Some of these, there's no contact even. They're not even any contact there. They're just, at least, like with you and with me in different degrees. And
you know how I know I didn't do it? I only took one charge in
Coach,
17 seasons. In the NBL, I took one charge. One charge.
You've built up this great trust with our audience. And now you're coming in here and saying, you flew the arms around, kicked them. You did stuff too to exaggerate.
That wasn't in my game. I played like a man.
That is rubbish, Coach.
You were the biggest.
Coach, I played with you for 20, whatever long it was. I can guarantee there are times when you exaggerated contact.
Your mission is to find the flop and put it on air. You won't find a flop.
Coach, I'm talking about not flopping. I'm talking about exaggerating.
You are talking about flopping.
Throwing your arms around like you're being
you
shot.
You won't find one with Bernard Copeland's name in it,
Coach, that is rubbish.
Let me tell you something.
Anyone watching this, go on.
That is your mission. Find a flop from anybody send a flop in right now.
Coach, you're going to embarrass him. Coach, there are plenty of times you went flying with your hands.
It was a real foul. I didn't do it on purpose. I didn't do it to gain a foul.
But there might have been a little bit of contact that you exaggerated.
If they hit me, I failed. That was it, bro. There wasn't no faking flopping, pal. I didn't play that. We didn't flop. I came from the West End in America. You flop, you got shot. It didn't happen with me, bro.
But no, I'm disappointed that you're not man enough.
I am man enough to tell you, go out and find a flop, and then I'll say I'm
willing to say there is not one player in any elite level competition that hasn't exaggerated contact. True. Now, that's different. Maybe we're splitting hairs here, but it has exaggerated contact.
Okay, there's a difference in exaggerating contact and flopping. If you exaggeraate contact,
it's just a less of a flop.
You got hit. That means you got hit. Now you try.
Yeah, but it's a little hit on the head, but then you go back to let the ref know.
No, you didn't see any of that with me, man. I didn't play that.
Oh, please.
Obviously, you were looking at something else. You were trying to get down the court and get me up. You weren't worried about me down there. I'm telling you.
Gee whiz.
Let's move on, bro.
Well, we need to move on, Copes. Hey, now, Copes, it's that time of the show where we have been reaching out to some of the superstars of the basketball world. But today, I don't know what's going on with the people that put this show together, but they must have some very incriminating photos of our next guest, because why he'd want to come and spend some time with us little rookies here in our little Wayne's World production, we have got absolute Australian comedy royalty. And it doesn't. In fact, I'm not sure it gets much bigger than this. Nazeem Hussain, he was on. I recently saw him on the I'm a Celebrity Getting out of here, Coach. But for some reason, like I said, I don't know how this has happened.
He must not have anything to do. He must not have anything to do.
The power of our podcast. Somehow he's joining us, and he joins us here on this week's show. Welcome.
Thank you. Oh my God, I've never had an intro like that in my life. But I appreciate it. My head's huge now. I watch you. I don't want to make you feel old, but I grew up loving you guys, so it's a bit bizarre for me. Actually, when they asked me, they said, "Do you want to do this podcast?" I was like, "Oh my God, yes!" And then they already accepted before I clarified that I don't know anything about basketball.
Well, let me tell you, we've been nervous. We've been counting down the sleeps. We've done something that we've never ever done before in the history of the show, and actually done a bit of research. So
you've called his name 50 times to make sure you got it right.
We've been practicing your name so we don't bugger that up. But
well, how come your Zoom name is not Gaze? This is the first time I've seen. Is this
is
secret?
This is how it is. What it is, and you'll probably pick this up as we go through this conversation, is Leonard and I are really, really cheap. And what's happened is that people that put this podcast together, they've got a fully paid Zoom account. So rather than
cuts out.
We thought we'd better use their account rather than our own account.
Okay.
So that's how it works. But hey, why don't you start off, because you said before we went hit record that you're not necessarily a great basketball fan, but do you follow the NBA? Do you follow the NBL?
You know what? I wish I did. It's one of those sports. Every time I watch a game of basketball, I really get into it, and it's exciting. And I'm like, who's that guy? And my friend's like, that's LeBron James, you idiots. I'm like, oh, okay, he's really good. They're so fast, and oh my God, they jump really. Like I'm always blown away, just like I am with several other sports. But basketball is very exciting to me. But I just never, I don't know why, I've never really committed to watching sports properly. I've just, it's a lot of time each week. And, you know, you've got to know the names of people and positions and the rules. I've got to remember the rules of the society that I live in before I can think about another kind of manufactured activity. So I don't know. I'm abnormal in that way.
Yeah.
So growing up, though, what did you want to be, though? I mean, did you want to be a comedian? You sitting there?
No. I wanted to be I genuinely wanted to be a pilot. This is not a joke.
Yes.
Until, oh my gosh, here comes a dark corner. Until 9/11 happened, and then the next day I was like, nah, all right, I'll just become a lawyer. So I changed careers because I thought, who the hell is going to hire a guy with the surname Hussain, middle name Muhammad? So, you know, it was only until this year I thought I might actually go learn how to fly a plane.
So how'd you get into comedy, though?
I was just mucking around on the side. I was doing community work with, like, you know, young Muslims, and just I used to go to prisons and just talk to people. And the only, as you'll know, to talk to young people, you've got to, like, make them laugh. Otherwise, they just lose. They just don't care. They
lose focus straight away.
Yeah, lose focus. So I sort of used to just muck around. It was community work, and then that sort of, and then I started doing it as a bit of a hobby. I did some stand-up gigs, and it was just a hobby that I was doing on the side that just got busier and busier. And then at one point, when I was working in an office job after doing my uni, it was actually it got too busy. I had to take 6 months off. I thought, I'll do this TV show, and then I'll come back. But I just never came back. So
with comedy, and it's changed in relatively recent times. You're still a very young man, but if you go back to when we were a lot younger and we'd go to a comedy show, some of the topics they could talk about, I mean, it's you look back on it now and go, geez, how they get away with that?
Oh my,
yeah. How do you confront some of the topical issues these days? Is it very hard to come up with?
It is and it isn't, because, like, you know, I grew up watching, like, Eddie Murphy, you know, Raw and Delirious, memorized his stuff. You know, that sort of era of comedian is, you know, I idolized them growing up. But now when you think about it, you're like, oh, actually, that's pretty homophobic and sexist, all sorts of stuff. So it's, but it's sort of like a reflection of the times. I think, like, the comedians are just people, you know, who are, you know, have the same sense of humor as the audience in a way, but are just probably better at telling the stories or making the jokes. So you sort of move with the times, you know, you're not really looking to the audience to see what makes them laugh. You sort of are a product of the culture that you grow up in. So it's not really like a challenge for me to think about what are the rules, because it's just what, you know, this is just life for all of us. We're just used to it.
Yeah. I've always wondered myself, have you ever been on stage and bombed? What happens? Tell me.
It happens. In fact,
hey, Coach, you can. I don't know. I'm really curious. But Coach, just think of those nights when you went 1 for 22 and you couldn't throw it in.
I still got it up, brother. I still got it up. Don't worry about it.
Wait, what does 1 for 22 mean?
He's taken 22 shots and only made one.
What the hell? How did you miss 21 times?
Bro, we ain't talking about me. We're talking about you now.
Wait, did you seriously miss 21 times? And you were paid to... Anyway.
He's exaggerating.
Now, look, I've had those 1 for 22 nights as well. It's horrible. And in fact, if you don't have a bad night, you don't appreciate the good nights. But the bad nights feel so bad. And I just have to, like, do a gig straight after it so that I feel like a comedian again. Because otherwise, if you're just left with that as the last gig you did, it's the worst. You've got to shake it off.
You lose your confidence? You lose your confidence?
Yeah, you actually start to doubt whether you're funny. So it's, I have to kind of like, but that's why, you know, young comedians who, you know, start, often will stop doing comedy after their first bad gig, or they'll have a great gig and then they'll think, I don't need to really work or think about this anymore because I've clearly got this natural ability. And then, you know, and then they run up against a bad gig. Sometimes it's your fault. Sometimes it's the audience's fault. Sometimes it's just a mix of things. I did one gig in, oh my God, this is horrible, in Edinburgh. I don't know if you guys have heard of the Edinburgh Fringe Festival.
Yes. Is that the Just for Laughs one? Is that the...
Well, no, Just for Laughs in Montreal, but similar. Okay. Like it's basically this, like, free. It's a huge arts festival, like, where everyone from, like, circus performers to comedians to poets. This is huge. And it takes over the whole city. So it's, I think, during the year, normally Edinburgh's about 500,000 people. That's the population. But during the Fringe, I believe it swells to like 1.5 million. Wow. So like 1 million people come in and out every week. And so the people that live there, it's just, you know, a lot of people love it, but there's some people just don't. They hate the idea of these strangers coming in and taking over. So there's this one gig each night called Leighton Live, which historically was for the locals to come and take out their freaking frustrations at the performers.
Oh dear.
And it's like a bear pack. Like you just, and I didn't know, there's all these stories of comedians going up there, getting booed off before they get to the mic, people throwing stuff. Some guy famously was telling jokes, people were booing and shouting at him. So he got a beer bottle, smashed it over his head and glassed himself in the face. And then that's what turned the crowd. Like it's that sort of vibe. Anyway, I don't know how the hell I got booked on this, but someone, I think it was my manager, booked me on this gig, and she was like, "Oh, you got Late Live," and a lot of people were like, "Oh, Nazeem, you're doing Late Live," and I thought, "Oh, this must mean I'm good or something." I didn't know. I was quite excited. I was maybe like 8 years ago, and so I was, you know, backstage. I could hear the crowd quite rowdy. I thought, "Oh, this will be high energy crowd. They'll laugh." So I got onto the stage, and I started trying to tell my joke. About 5 seconds in, some woman just stands up, and she goes, "Oh, just tell us a fucking joke, would you?" And then some other guy stands up and goes, "Yeah, just be funny." And they all started yelling and shouting. And I just yelled my punchline over the top and just ran off stage. And it was horrible. I was so scared. I thought they're all going to try to kill me. I thought that they wanted to kill me. So I asked my friend if I could wear his jumper so that they wouldn't recognize me. I was like, and it stuck with me. It was traumatic.
Is it and when you're going over there and you're in a different country, and I assume that a lot of it is Australian type humor or the language, and is it? Do you have to really change a lot of what you're saying because of your?
Yeah. Oh my God, it's at least with like English speaking countries, you know, like the UK or America, Canada, whatever. Like we all sort of get a sense for what it makes us laugh, you know, because you watch American comedy, you watch British comedians, so you sort of figure it out in a way, and you get it when you're walking around the street talking to people. Yeah, you can see what makes them laugh. So on stage, it's not much different. But I did some shows in China. Someone said to my manager and to me, "Oh, hey, does Nazeem want to do some shows? 6 shows in China? Yeah, no, we'll put them there. It's just half an hour a night." And I thought, I've never been to like mainland China. This would be a great holiday, and I do some gigs, bit of money, and I can write something while I'm there. So I went there, and first show was in a place called Chengdu, which is famous for pandas. Beautiful place, really nice. It's very Chinese. It's not, you know. So I was backstage at this gig, and I looked out at the audience. I was like, how the hell do they get like 100 people in there? Anyway, so I was like, going through my notes, and some guy comes up to me just as I'm about to get on stage, and he goes, "Oh, have a great gig. Just thought I'd let you know, none of these people really speak English very well. They're learning English, and they don't understand the Australian accent. So don't speak in an Australian accent. Have a good gig." I was like, what the hell? So I went on stage, and I was like, "Hello, everyone. How are you?" And I started trying to do a joke. And you know, like when you talk, you make rhetorical questions. You ask, like, you know, don't you hate it when, you know, you start a sentence like that? And they will literally answer these questions. So people will put their hands up and then answer to the crowd. So they'd face the audience and say to everybody, "I remember one time and then I was like facilitating an English language course or something. It was bizarre.
Hey, you opened for Dave Chappelle and Kevin Hart, is that right? Or
well, I got to open for Dave Chappelle when he came to Australia, and
were you nervous? Were you nervous? You get nervous about that?
Dude, Dave Chappelle is like my comedy idol. He's you know, it was very, very exciting. But yeah, like I don't even know if he watched the shows in Australia. I think he saw a couple of spots, but just the idea that he was there and he'd approved me was just unbelievable.
He has to hear you first before you open for him. He has to know what you.
I believe so. Like, I think there were clips that were sent around. I'm not sure. Like, I like to tell myself that that's what happened. But there was a few of us, myself, Ronnie Cheng, Matt Okine. And then actually I went to New York. So that was in 2013. New York, I got to open for him again. And I actually didn't realize I was going to open for him. I was in the queue. I got to the front, and then his agent said, "Oh, this is the opening act. Just, you know, get him backstage, put a wrist thing on him, like a wristband." So I was backstage. I thought, "Oh, this is how nice. He remembers me. I get to meet Dave again." So it was backstage. The lights were dim. It was like, you know, chips and drinks and all sorts of stuff. So I turned the lights up because it's pretty dark. And then Dave comes in, turns the lights down, and then he's like, "Oh, hey, Nas, just do 15 to 20 minutes. And I was like, "What?" And then the show started in 5 minutes. So I had no time to stress about it. Went straight on stage, did the jokes, and I swear, I actually thought, like, the crowd was so great. And in my mind, I was like, oh my God, I'm killing it. This is probably too good. I don't know if this is disrespectful to Dave, who's coming on after me. He might, I'm supposed to be shitter than he is.
Right.
I've got to set the bar low. In my brain, that's what I was thinking. Anyway, I finished. They were like round of applauding me. Dave comes on and just takes it to another level. And I was like, oh, okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Like, what kind of a cocky idiot am I? But anyway, so I did the gig, and people were hanging out with him afterwards. He was rehearsing for Saturday Night Live. He was just running through his material that night. So hundreds of people went to the show, and there's about 50 people that stuck around, including people from the Wu-Tang Clan and all sorts of famous faces. So people were just flocking towards him and hogging his time. At about 3 a.m., he breaks free from these guys, and he comes up to me, and he puts his arm around me, and he tells everybody, he goes, hey, everybody, this is Nas. Every time I come to Australia, I always get Nas to open for me. And I was like, thanks, Dave. I've only opened for him once. He's come once. But then he remembered all these things from back in 2013. He goes, how's your boy Matt doing? So Matt O'Kine. And I was like, Matt's doing good. And he goes, and Ronnie, he's doing the Daily Show. I said, yeah. And he goes, you're doing this Netflix thing. I said, yep. And he goes, congratulations, well done. Wow. Keep doing what you do. Like, he just remembered all this stuff, which is
maybe it's the weed that he smokes. He smokes a lot of weed, bro.
There was an auto cue behind me. He was reading. But that was it. I was legendary.
Well, it sounds like there's a bit of a brotherhood amongst the comedians. Do you look, is there trends that you go on, like in sport? We're playing basketball and you'll see a successful team and you'll try and emulate some of their systems and what they do. Is it similar like that in the comedy? Like there's certain topics, well, this is what we've got to nail this.
It's kind of like, there's definitely like a camaraderie in comedy, like, backstage at comedy gigs all around the world, every comedy. In fact, so if you're a comedian and you're traveling, you go to a comedy room and you suddenly feel like you're at home backstage with other comedians. You all kind of get each other. But there's also this sort of like, it doesn't matter how successful you are, you're still hanging out backstage in either a kitchen or some disgusting, like comedy backstages are not as glamorous as music, probably not as nice as, basketball change rooms. But like they're sharing notes. Like in Australia, Hughesy will be backstage with someone that's done 3 gigs and, giving each other tips on, oh, that joke was funny, or maybe try this. Or
really?
Try that.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't think it happens in, say, music. You wouldn't have like Beyonce backstage with some random that's just started singing, but it is like that in comedy. So, but also, like there is that criticism that comedians are also, as a community, a bit defensive. So someone might criticize for, someone might say something horribly offensive, and then comedians will just not say anything or just stand in line and defend that because there's this sort of, we've got this mentality that, well, we back each other at all costs. So there is that defensiveness too. But, I think by and large, a pretty nice community.
Wow.
And it's a community of whack. Like, we're all weird. Like, we're all misfits. And it's sort of like it's a one community where, like, oh, we all make sense to each other.
Wow. Now, you're on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. Tell me about that experience.
Ooh, yes.
Look, man, I needed the money, okay?
They pay all right? Is it good money?
They pay. Listen, if they come knocking, I wouldn't not answer the door. But it was crazy. I was there for 46 days.
Yeah.
I lost 10.2 kilos.
Wow.
And had to eat all sorts of horrible stuff. I ate ostrich anus, goat's testicles.
Yeah.
In prison. At least in prison, when you're eating anus, you know the guy's name. I'm joking. You can edit that out if you like. I'm fine with that. But no, it was good fun. Like, it felt like a school camp where everything's looked after. You just need to wake up and do the things. You don't have to worry about paying bills. And as a comedian, I think it felt all right because we're professional clowns, so you can't really humiliate us.
Yeah.
But if you maybe, if you're a serious news reporter or a model or an actor or an actress, like when you get covered in elephant shit, that can feel a little humiliating.
What's your breaking point? What would you not have done on that show, though?
You know what? I was prepared to do anything because I thought nothing is going to kill me because they're not going to do anything that kills someone on television.
Oh,
that's going to be bad for their ratings. Oh, it might be good for their ratings.
Good show. Oh, good app. Like you say, but gee, you're a great app.
Exactly. How do you top a death? But yeah, I mean, maybe they vote for. But it was but yeah, I sort of just thought. Actually, I thought you know, you can see yourself, you feel yourself losing your mind a little bit. But every time I'd see someone else lose their mind, that would remind me not to lose my mind. So people were just fighting over socks. And then immediately that reminded me that we're on a television show. And then you can see the camera. So they're not hiding, but sometimes you just get caught up in the smallness of the world, which I think, you know, in a way right now in Melbourne anyway, being in lockdown, the world is tiny, and you start to lose your mind a little bit. We have this cabin fever going on. So
how authentic is it though? Because we've seen now. I know they're different shows, and you see, you know, the Bachelorette and all that, and you see these contestants come up and said, "Oh, they ripped me off. The editing killed me." No, that's not how it really happened. When you saw how it was edited and eventually went to air, is it authentic?
I think, so I obviously asked these questions beforehand because, you know, you don't want to just go in there. And also being a Muslim, I was like, oh no, I don't want to be on this reality show where they're like, ooh, the Muslim guys, you know, like where they take you out of context. But what they sort of told me and what I felt was true was that, okay, if you are mean today, and they present you as mean on television, say tomorrow they also have to present you as mean for that story to be consistent. So they have to find enough footage for you to be mean the next day. And then the next day they have to continue that. So to create a fake narrative, you've got to be consistently giving them that. So they can't actually manufacture that even if they wanted to. So ultimately, even if they wanted to be sinister, it's kind of difficult for them to be. So I found that I felt like it was a fairly authentic representation, even though they obviously take the most animated. But you know, definitely the first week. I was in there for 6.5 weeks or 6 weeks, whatever it was. And the first week, everyone is conscious of the cameras. Like the way you talk to each other, you know, your words are carefully crafted, and you felt like they were on Question Time in Parliament. But by the end of the first week, it's not that you forget about the cameras. It's just that you have no more energy to pretend anymore. So everyone just starts farting out loud and saying what they think and arguing, and you just have to be yourself. You can't but be yourself. So I think that's when I was like, oh, this is quite interesting psychologically. Now we're all, because I actually found the whole thing a very interesting psychologically. It's like we were all harmonious, and then they do one little thing, like bring in a rule board, like chores, divvy up chores, guys, that's it. And then suddenly there's chaos, and then they take that out, it goes back to harmony. Suddenly there's a new person that comes in, everyone goes crazy, then they take someone out and it goes back to, it was very, very interesting how simply we are manipulated.
No, of course. Hey, what about with your when you're putting together a show, what are do you have any no-go zones? And also, how do you deal, like a lot of people get humor out of Muslims and the stereotypes that are associated with Muslims. Is that okay? Are you comfortable with that type of humor?
Look, it's sort of like recently I've been sent this clip by some comedian who I haven't really heard of in Australia, but I think he's got a big following online, and therefore he's got a big following in real life. But I haven't seen him around at the circuit. But he was saying he was making a joke about Christchurch, and it didn't feel very tasteful, But basically, I think if you're part of the community of comedians, we tend to not police, but you sort of get the vibe. The rule is generally punch up, not down. So don't make fun of people that are already belittled. It just doesn't feel useful. Right. You wouldn't do that out and about. You wouldn't just walk past the homeless person and just make fun of them. But because it doesn't feel nice. Yeah. Even if you don't really think about it immediately when you're writing it, you'll figure it out on stage. If you say something that feels a little mean, the audience will let you know. You just get that. They'll pull back a little bit. I think the audience tends to police comedians just as much as we police each other. But police sounds like a bad word, but I think it's just generally the rule is, you're up there to make people feel better about themselves. And also art tends to be better, I think, when stand up, came out of America as an art of protest, people who didn't have a platform, whether it was before rallies during the civil rights movement, that get on stage, make jokes about police brutality, about the state, and then to get people aroused and excited, kind of ready to stand up for what's right. So that's kind of where it all came from. The targets were always the correct targets. It was never really the other way around. So when I see comedians kind of making fun of all people or homophobic, it's just it goes against the entire thing of comedy. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, now there's a little rumor going around that you spent some time with Lindsay Lohan.
Oh yes.
Dude, you've been Googling well.
No, brother, I got all the gossip, pal. Tell me about what's happening.
Oh, this was so weird. I can't believe it even happened. Like, so obviously you guys are big fans of the show The Masked Singer.
Yes.
Are you on it? I bet one of you.
I wish.
No, okay. Oh, really? Just send them an email. I'm sure they'll get you on. But she was last year. I was a guest judge for an episode, and Lindsay Lohan was there, and it was you know, I remember at one point just between takes, Husey took a selfie of all of us, and then Lindsay was next to him, and he goes, "Oh, I'll send you the photo if you want, Lindsay. What's your number?" And then she gave him his number, and I was like, "Smooth, Husey. That was really smooth." He goes, no. She wanted my number anyway, and I was like, "Whatever." Anyway, fast forward. We were in the green room. They're walking back to set, and Lindsay was telling me about a charity, and I said, "Oh, that sounds really cool." And she goes, "Yeah, I'll tell you all about it if you like. What's your number?" And no, she gave me her number, and then I put it down. I was like, "Oh my God, Husey, I got her number." Yeah. Anyway, so later on, the show had finished, and Husey and I, you know, we were both in the bar. I was having a lemonade, and Husey was having like a soda. He doesn't drink. I don't drink. So I was like, "Hey, why don't we just text Lindsay on WhatsApp and just see if she wants to join us?" So I said, "Hey, Lindsay, Husey and I are just down in the lobby getting a drink. If you want to come join us, let me know." And then I don't know if you know how WhatsApp goes, but she came online, 2 blue ticks, read it. I was like, "Oh God, she's read it." And then like we're waiting, she's typing, and she goes, "Sure, come to my hotel room." And then I was like, "What?" And then Husey's like, "Oh my God, let's go now." I was like, "We can't just go straight away. This is pretty desperate." So he's like, "Let's go now." He paid for the drinks. And I was like, "Whoa, we've got to reply to this." So I said, "Sure, shall we bring a plate?" And I think I wasn't trying to be funny. Because I think she thought drugs. And she was like, "No, just a bottle of wine." Anyway, so we got to the hotel lobby, and you know, she was a different hotel, a fancy, like a special room. You had to give him a code. And then he was like, "What's a really good bottle of wine?" Like, he hasn't drunk in 26 years. And then, this one. Well, it was quite expensive. Husey just paid for it, and then so we're like, he goes, "Well, Naz, you got to drink because I can't. Well, one of us has to drink." I go, "I don't drink. I'm Muslim." And he goes, "Well, I don't drink. I haven't drank in 26 years. I'm an alcoholic. So it's better that you drink." I'm like, "I'm not going to drink." Anyway, so we get up to the room. It's me, Husey, Lindsay, some other woman that works with her, and like some Hollywood type. And so we were just there, the 4 of us, and you know, Lindsay was just having a drink, and then Husey just pours me a glass of wine. He goes, "Here you go, Naz." And I was like, "Nah, all good, thanks, Husey. I'm driving." And it passed back to him. He goes, "No, I'm good." And the glass of wine just kept going back and forth. She had no idea what was going on between the two of us. We were freaking out, just trying to look cool in front of her. But since then, like, we've actually been in touch. Randomly, I get FaceTime calls from her.
Really?
Like, yeah, she's just. They live in a different world. Like, I remember I just sent her a message, and then she just FaceTimes me from New York. It was like 3 a.m. in the morning in Australia. I was just like, "Hey, Lindsay, what's going on?" And she's like, "Hey, how's it going? You know, I miss Australia." You know, just normal chat. But I think she can just call who she likes, whatever time it is. It's just a bizarre life.
Great.
That's great. Yeah. Now, outside of myself and Andrew Gaze, who are the most famous people you've ever met?
Lindsay Lohan is definitely number one. I met the Queen once, and her husband, Prince Philip. You know, the old guy. You know, he's notoriously. He says some pretty messed up things.
He's pretty funny too, though. Isn't he?
Well, he's not the greatest driver either.
Isn't he?
Anymore.
What do you mean? Did he crash?
Didn't he crash? That
was a while back, though. He's 99 or something. We'll give him a break.
He handed in his license.
Yeah, well, I've seen the Queen drive. There's a footage of her driving around in like a Volvo or something. But I got to meet them. They came to Melbourne, and I was there because I did something in some community work, and so I was. And basically met them, and she was nice. But then you know, she said, "Oh, congratulations," and I said, "Thank you very much, Your Honor." I called her Your Honor instead of Your Majesty.
Your Highness.
Like she's a judge.
That's funny.
So weird. Yeah. And then he started talking to me, and then there's a girl next to me. She was like the year 12 top achiever. She got the highest score in the state. And she's Asian, obviously. And he goes, "Where are you from?" And I was like, "Oh," I was like, "Am I being where am I from?" But no. But he meant like, I was like, "Oh, my parents are from Sri Lanka, but I was born in Australia." He goes, "No. Are you from an organization?" I said, "Oh, well, I guess I'm from the Islamic Council of Victoria." And he looks at me and he goes, "The Islamic Council?" And he turns to the Asian girl and he goes, "Where are you from? The the Buddhist council. And
really?
And the Queen was standing there like, oh, I've just heard 100 of. Like, if you Google his name, you'll see top 100 most racist jokes that made. Like, he goes to places, he'll speak to some African leader, and he goes, "Are you wearing pajamas?" He asked Aboriginal people if they throw spears at each other still. Like, he's kind of crazy. He's nuts. Anyway, so that story spread around the room. By the time I left, there was the waiting media that weren't allowed in. They all came up to me and they're like, Nazeem, what did the prince say to you? I heard he's just saying racist. And I hadn't told my friends that I was going to go meet the Queen. Sell out because they were protesting outside the other entrance. So I didn't let anybody. So I just basically just ran back to work. I didn't do the interviews, but it was it was a very weird encounter.
Yeah. Hey, now, I'd imagine when you're trying to put your shows together and you're trying to come up with some new topics, you can be a little annoying because, you're trying things out and you're a bit of tomfoolery and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But I reckon you cross the line when you start to bring your mum into the joking world. And I saw on social media that somehow or other you were convincing your mum that you had some sort of tiger. Now, can you fill us in on where you draw the line that your mum's even good fodder?
I still don't even know how she still loves me. I've been too humble. Like, basically, I don't know if I was bored. Lockdown, by the way. So this is an activity that kept me sane for half an hour. If you Google cat, shark, lion, tiger, if you scroll down on Google, there's this thing that says view in 3D, and you click on that with your iPhone or any smartphone, and it comes up in your camera, basically a augmented reality version of that animal. So it looks like it's in your house. Yes, it looks like there's a tiger walking in your house and you can record. Really? Yes, I basically sent my mum a video saying, "Hey, mum," I said, "Hey, mum, I just got a new tiger." And she was like, "What? You got a tiger in your house?" I said, "Yeah, don't worry. Like, I've YouTubed how to look after it. It's fine." And she's like, "Yes, but he might keep him locked in the toilet. He might try to bite you in your sleep, these bloody rascal tigers." And she really just lost her mind thinking that let me find this. She sent me a voice message and she was
that's crazy.
Losing her mind. But yeah, she's certainly not she's not very critical when it comes to things like, she just believes everything I say, basically. Hang on.
Are they here in Australia? Are your parents here in Australia?
My mum my mum is here. He's a voice message.
He might even bite you, so you be very careful. Why you take this chance of bringing tigers into the house? No, I don't know what to tell you, Nazeem. Okay, just get into the shit. Lock him in the toilet. That's all.
Anyway, so she basically sent me about 100 of these messages.
My God!
Just basically telling me to lock a tiger in the toilet. I said, "I've run out of minced meat. Can you drop some off?" And but no, she comes to most of my shows actually.
Really?
The Melbourne Comedy Festival was like 26 shows you do back to back, and she comes to about 15 of them, and just makes a big entrance as well. So we'll walk in and in a big sari or something, and if I reference her, she'll stand up and bow to the audience.
That's amazing.
That's great.
So
no, that is great.
You got brothers and sisters now?
I'm a middle boy, so I got 2 sisters.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah. So they would call me spoiled. Yep. I would agree with them.
Hey, you're a champion, my friend. Appreciate your time.
How funny was he, Drew? He's a funny man.
Nazeem Hussain. Now, that is just a small snippet of what our interview was. And as we said on the top of the show, if you want to see the whole interview, we highly recommend you do that. Check out the link to the full episode of our interview with Nazeem Hussain. And we can't thank him enough. He's a really funny guy that just wanted to spend some time with us, Cubs. Like I said, I have no idea to this day how he ended up on our show. But
you see what he retweeted? He goes, "I'm friends with Andrew Gaze and Leonard Copeland." How great was that?
He's a good fella. Yep. Hey, Coach, before we wrap up this week's edition, just want to touch base on some of the goings on in the NBL.
Yep.
2 things that really stick out to me is that Casper Ware, we thought that he was going to be lost to the NBL, but word coming out that he's going to be back with the Sydney Kings. That is great news. Never had his best year last season.
He had a bad year last year, considering.
No, I don't think he had a bad year, but he didn't
have a terrible year.
No, it wasn't terrible. Didn't shoot it that well, but he's a star, and he's going to be an important part of the Sydney Kings as they move forward. So that is great news for the Sydney Kings. The other one is Casey Prather. He's had another year to run with the Melbourne United, but they've mutually agreed to part ways. horrific injuries. We never saw. We saw the best.
It's been 3 years though, George, since he's played, hasn't it? It's been like
two seasons he's missed.
Yeah.
He
missed a year before he came to United, though. Didn't he sit out a year?
Yeah, but he won a title at Perth. He won a title at Melbourne United, and his best is just sensational. He is a super talent, but he's missed a couple of seasons and very much an interrupted season. Only played a handful of games with Melbourne United last season, but he's gone to play with an Israeli team, Hapoel Eilat, Eilat. That's in Israel. So we wish him nothing but success and, most importantly, good health. But that is a loss because he at his best is really good. The other one that it's sad to see go is DJ Newell, who was a worthy candidate for MVP honours last season.
Yes, it was.
Great at both ends of the floor, but
great defense, can shoot the ball, yes.
With the Cairns Taipans last season, with the league cutting it back to only have 2 imports, then they had to make some tough decisions. And DJ Newell, I know a number of other clubs asked the question and wanted him to be a part of it. But I believe he signed in Japan.
Yes, going to Japan.
So we wish him well. And I'd like to think that one day he'd come back. Great at both ends of the floor, really good at New Zealand, outstanding at Cairns, and we wish him nothing but success as well. And the newcomer, and we've mentioned him briefly a couple of episodes ago, but Donald Sloan is the Adelaide 36ers. Now, this guy spent a long time in the NBA, mostly with the Indiana Pacers, where he did work. He's one of these nuggety-type guys.
Stout.
30, not overweight, but solid, thick. So I'd say about 6'4", real strong, had bounce, but he's 32 now, so he's – you'd know better, but at 32, it's highly likely he's still got a bit of bounce. But the thing about him is that, and the little quirky part of it, if I'm reading my information correctly, he actually played, I think he played for Brian Goorjian when he played in China. He spent some time in China. So he's one, I don't know, Copes, you've seen much of him. What can you tell us about him?
He's a strong kid who can score and rebound. And that's something Adelaide's probably going to need right now. I think they got a lot of younger guys down there. They're not that athletic, but they bringing this guy in who can score the rock. So it's certainly going to help him.
Well, it reminds me, the body type, now the different players, don't get me wrong, the body type reminds me a bit of Shannon Shorter. Remember a couple of seasons ago when they went to the championship series? Yep. The body type looks a little bit like that. Good bounce. By all reports, a sensational character guy.
That's what they need.
Really high character guy, and that's half the battle as well. So good luck to Donald. Hopefully, good luck getting here, though. Crikey. Let's hope that these guys can get here, do their quarantine, and we can start in December. But it's hey, Copes, I think we're just about done. Copes, we got someone next week. Have you got someone lined up for us next week?
I'm working on it, Joey. I'm working on it right now, brother. Just hold on, son. Hold on.
I'm liking what I hear. All right. Well, it's been a great show. Hey, who knows what's going to happen with the NBA? Let's hope they're back playing, but more importantly, let's hope the stance that they've made, making the boycott, has an impact on changing the United States and making the United States a whole lot safer for a lot of
for everybody,
for everyone, but
especially for the brothers.
With the brothers, for sure.
All right.
Hey, Coach, you've been a sensation again. I can't thank you enough for your time. I could sit here and talk to you hours, but we've absolutely bored the crap out of a lot of people by now. And it's time for us to say sayonara. So all the very best. Thanks for joining us. We look forward to having everyone else's company again next week for another riveting episode of the Alley Oop Podcast. But on behalf of Bernard Copeland and myself, Andrew Gaze, it is bye for now.
This has been a No Filter Media production.
Say what you want.